Hello, people coming from other card games looking to try Shadowverse out. I'm Ignideus. I've been playing this game for over 7 years, creating content for it and casting the official esports in the SEAO region, and I think this is the best deck for beginners to start out with. This is a budget version of a deck that I like to call Golemboost because it centers around this card, Golem Lord. I'll explain what each and every card does individually in a bit, but if you just want the list, here is the budget version with the only legendary being Golem Lord, and here is the optimized version you can work towards that actually tops in tournaments. The idea of the deck is pretty simple to understand. You have cards that generate golems, specifically clay golems and guardian golems, and the more of those golems you make come into play, the more damage Golem Lord does to the enemy leader at the end of your turn. So the deck is built around summoning these golems and then landing a Golem Lord to deal massive damage and win you the game. Ideally, multiple Golem Lords one after the other. How do you do that? Well, you also have to balance this resource called Stack. Stack is an on-field resource generated through these amulets called Earth Sigils, and you consume Stack to activate certain effects. For example, this card has Stack 2, and when you play Golem Lord, when it comes into play from your hand, it consumes 2 stacks in order to do this effect, summoning 2 Guardian Golems and dealing 5 damage to all enemy followers. Very powerful. This deck also uses a mechanic called Spell Boost, which basically just means when this is in your hand, whenever you cast a spell, something happens. In this case, it subtracts 1 from the cost of this card. So Fate's hand starts at 5 play points, you cast a spell, it becomes 4 play points, you cast another spell, it becomes 3 play points, you get the idea. So now let's talk through each of the cards one by one. First up, we have Multi-Elemental Neophyte. On Fanfare, it adds magical augmentation into your hand. A 1 play point spell, which is useful for spell boosting, or you can use it for this Earthright effect to deal with the board and draw some cards, if you have enough stack. Additionally, when this card gets destroyed, it summons Magical Sediment, which is a stack. Next up, we have Insight. Very simple card here, draw a card. Great for spell boosting. And the last one drop is Familiar's Pact, which puts a random follower with Earthright, meaning the thing that consumes stacks, from your deck into your hand, and also summons a Sediment. The only follower that has Earthright in this deck is Golem Lord. So this is your Golem Lord tutor to draw your key boss card. Now for the 2 drops, we have Gruine Leonardian Provost. She summons a Sediment when she comes into play from your hand, and at the start of your opponent's turn, if you have 3 stack, you add Veridic Ritual into your hand, which is a spell that deals 3 damage to an enemy, and that can include the enemy face. It can also consume a stack to draw a card. It's nice to supplement your damage from Golem Lord with this card. Not only that, but when she evolves, she adds 1 to an allied stack in play, and debuffs the enemy board by -1/-1, which can be pretty relevant if they're going wide. Next, we have a 1 of Fickle Tamer. She's not the best card, but she does summon 2 magical sediments on Fanfare, meaning when she comes into play from your hand. The enhanced 6 you pretty much never use, but just so you know, you summon Eldritch Chimera and Eldritch Demon, and at the end of your opponent's turn you banish them, meaning they're removed from play without giving you any shadows. Eldritch Chimera is a ward that can't be destroyed by effects, and Eldritch Demon is a storm card, meaning it can attack the turn it comes into play, which has the effect of healing you at the end of your turn. But this effect is very heavy, and again, you're probably never going to play it for this effect. There is an alternate effect though, where on Evolve she summons a demon, which is a 2/2 with Rush, which actually could be relevant if you're fighting a wide board. Next up, we have Summoning Disaster. It's a card you usually want to play for 2 play points instead of the enhanced cost, because on 2, it summons a Clay Golem and a Sediment, which is what you want. On 4, it summons Eldritch Chimera instead of Clay Golem, and on 7, this summons Eldritch Demon instead of the Sediment, which is that card with Storm we just saw. Could be relevant in the end game if your Golem Lord is just lacking enough damage, but generally you just play this for 2. Binding Ritual is a stack card. It's a good one too, because it comes with 2 stacks and cycles, and makes it so that a random enemy follower with 2 attack or less can't attack until the end of your opponent's turn. Great for keeping you healthy and giving you stack for future turns. Can also be used to board lock your opponent into awkward situations. The next card is probably the most complicated card in the deck, so keep this in mind. Celestial Command has the ability to fuse Runecraft cards from your hand, which means that it basically absorbs another card in your hand to do some effect. In this case, it adds 1 to an allied stack in play, which is actually fantastic because that means you can generate stack without spending any play points, although you do lose some card advantage. I recommend using this on cards you don't think you're gonna need, or cards whose sole purpose is to generate stack anyway. It also has the effect of being able to transmute into Celestial Convergence, which essentially means when you fuse at least 2 cards into this, it becomes a whole new card with a whole different different effect, summoning 3 Guardian Golems, evolving them, and spending 2 stack to give all allies reduced damage from effects by 2. This could be helpful if you know your opponents based on burn, mitigating their game plan and accelerating your golem count for a future Golem Lord. Generally though, this card is most used for the fusion effect of getting free stacks. If you're going super aggressive, you can also play this on 3 for a Guardian Golem and a Magic Sediment. A 3/3 ward accelerating your game plan and generating a sediment is quite nice. So essentially this card can be used 3 different ways. Next, we have Ultramarine Witch. She has Crystallize 1, essentially meaning she can be played as a stack rather than as a follower for only 1 play point. And that's good because when that stack leaves play, you draw a card. And a stack leaves play whenever you play a new stack. It absorbs the old stack, meaning this can be a 1 play point stack and cycle. The body is Storm, Fanfare. If you have 20 or less cards in your deck, deal 3 damage to all enemy followers. You pretty much never play her for that effect. The payoff for getting to 20 or less is not that strong. A 3/3 body is not that strong for 5 play points either. So pretty much you just play her for the Crystallize 1. We saw Fate's Hand earlier. Spell Boost subtracts from the cost and it draws 2 cards. Mr. Bertrand, you pretty much never play for the 6 cost effect because the 6 cost effect is support for a different archetype called Mysteria. We're not playing that right now, which means you play it as a 1 cost spell. It gives you another spell, changes it to 1 cost, and that spell summons a Clay Golem and gives ward to all allied Clay Golems. You can use that to stop enemy followers from hitting you in the face. You can use it as 2 spell boosts in 1 card, and you can use it to increase your Golem count. Crushing Rain is also a spell boost card, which gets its cost subtracted the more it's boosted, and it deals 2 damage to a random enemy follower and the enemy leader, meaning it can supplement your Golem Lord damage as well as help deal with the board. Finally, Outdoors Mage. On Accelerate 1, meaning you play it as a 1 play point spell, it deals 2 damage to a random enemy follower and summons a Sediment. Great for generating stack and also helping to deal with the enemy board and spell boosting. For 7 play points, it summons 3 Clay Golems and evolves all unevolved allied Clay Golems. Pretty late gameplay, but if you're saving a Golem Lord in the back for a potential OTK instead of playing it for tempo, you can use Outdoors Mage to accelerate your Golem count. Finally, the key card himself, Golem Lord. Very crucially, he has the effect Accelerate 1, Earthright summon a Clay Golem, and then return Golem Lord to your hand. This means as long as you have a stack in play, you can get a 2/2 body that adds to your win condition and spell boosts for only 1 play point. It's very satisfying to spam that over and over and over again. And of course, on the main body, Fanfare Earthright 2, summon 2 Guardian Golems, deal 5 damage to all enemy followers. That adds to the Golem Lord end of turn count and deals with the enemy board very nicely. And of course, the key effect here at the end of your turn, deal X damage to the enemy leader, which equals the number of allied Clay Golems and Guardian Golems that have come into play this match. That's the ticket. I want to talk a little bit about the ideal version of the list that you can work towards. It's not that much more expensive. It adds 2 new legendaries, 3 Golem Lords, 3 Heirs, and 3 Undying Witches. Heir is fantastic because she can resurrect your Golem Lord as long as she's spell boosted by 5. If she's spell boosted by 10, she evolves herself and the Golem Lord you resurrect, and when she evolves, she spell boosts the cards in your hand twice and gives you a 1-time damage shield. Great card. Essentially, it's protection and it's 3 extra copies of Golem Lord potentially, and boosts your Crushing Rain and Fate's Hand in the process. The other legendary is Undying Witch. She has a complicated effect where if the leftmost card in your hand is the same type as a card played by your opponent during their previous turn, you get a sediment and draw a card. A great effect for 1 play point if you can get it off. And you usually can, because players tend to like playing followers and you have a lot of followers, so it's not that hard to activate. Another crucial effect she has is that if you've consumed at least 7 stack, you evolve this follower for free. Keep in mind, she cannot evolve manually. She has to evolve from an effect. So if you meet this quest, she evolves, and then once on each turn, when you consume stack, you recover play points equal to the number of stack consumed. This is fantastic because this can mean essentially in the late game, you can do something like play Golem Lord and recovers you 2 play points back, so Golem Lord effectively only costs 3. Then that means on turn 8, for example, you can play double Golem Lord. So that's what you're aiming for, but now we're going to play this budget version in Grandmaster Ladder. And I'm going to prove to you that you don't need a lot of resources to win a lot of games. So let's jump into it, and if you find this helpful in any way, please leave a like and subscribe. It really, really does help out. So my first game was up against Artifact Portalcraft, a very execution-heavy deck. Now, looking at my hand, I want to keep Ultramarine Witch for sure as a 1-cost stack that can cycle. And Crushing Rain I'm going to toss away because I don't have many spells in my hand to boost it. Now I have a turn 1 Ultramarine Witch into a turn 2 Binding Ritual potentially. Now my opponent is going first and they play Jet-powered Pugilist, which shuffles Analyzing Artifacts into their deck. This is to accelerate their Agile count. I draw Golem Lord, which is fantastic. Again, remember the effect of Golem Lord Accelerate, meaning I can summon Clay Golems. And because if I summon the Clay Golem now, I actually get rid of Ultramarine Witch from that Earthright effect and draw a card. So we go ahead and do that. Summon a 2/2, and I play Multi-Elemental Neophyte as well. That's a wordy name. It's hard to say. I just usually call it the 1-drop is what I usually call it in my day-to-day life. They play Lazuli, which is one of their best cards. It shuffles Radiant Artifact into their deck, which is a Storm card, and it changes their cost to 1, which is pretty terrifying if they are able to get it out of the deck. They also play Retrophia here for the Crystallize effect, which gives all artifacts rush, meaning that it's hard for me to keep a board. The good news for me is that I'm not really trying to keep a board, I'm just trying to accelerate my golem count. You can kill my golems if you want. I use the magical augmentation off of Neophyte to take out Lazuli because it's a very scary 3-drop. It has a lot of attack. It's a 3/3 for 3, which is about as good as they get a lot of the time. And then I end up playing the Fickle Tamer to generate more stack. Now, when I'm playing this deck, I'm always cognizant of the fact that I want to have the option of playing Golem Lord on 5 for Earthright 2, just in case I need it to clear the enemy board. So make sure to manage your stack in that way, and with Celestial Command in hand, you can end up fusing away cards you don't need right now to make sure that you have the exact number of stack you want ahead of time. Let's go ahead and look at the next turn here. They play Agile to just draw a card from their deck, as well as Inez to tutor an Agile as well. And now Clay Golem comes out, and I want to do this because if I play Binding Ritual, it can actually lock that Agile and prevent it from attacking. Also, it draws me into Multi-Elemental Neophyte, which is fantastic. Now, going into my turn 5, I have enough stack to play a Golem Lord. As I said, they tutored Agile from Inez there, so they got the Agile transmuted, which now means that every time they play an artifact, they either get a draw or a play point recovery, depending on if it's an odd or even number of artifacts they played this turn. It's a very complicated deck. We don't have to worry about it, okay? Let's just focus on our own game plan. And here, yup, you just slam the Golem Lord down, baby. I'm not dealing with that 5/4, and I want to generate the bodies from the Golem Lord, and here is something I do. Just my personal playstyle. A lot of the time, I will pre-evolve the Golem Lord, even though there's no body to rush into, just to make it harder for them to deal with it. This is especially important in the mirror match. If you noticed a cut there, it's because I forgot the word mirror for some reason. Don't worry about it. Alright, Evamia comes out, which has the ability of giving them a damage shield, which is kind of annoying. Alright, but that's fine, because, as you can see here, my Golem Lord lives, which really heavily demoralizes them, I think, because now I get to play another Golem Lord, and now that I have Crushing Rain in hand, I'm like, nice, I get to play Mr. Bertrand for the spell, boost that count a little bit, and even though they had that shield, preventing my 7 damage from hitting them in the face, with double Golem Lord, I deal 12 damage this turn, and I'm pretty sure they scoop here after being mad. Am I right? Dimension Crack. They get the Rhino. Am I misremembering? By the way, I did play this while my power was out. I was playing it on my phone. It was a frustrating experience because I was trying to make this video, and then I had to play it on my phone instead of on the computer, but there you go. They played the Electric Rhino, which is the card that their deck is based around. I'm pretty sure they scooped. Am I tripping? They do heal back up to 10. Laser Tyranny to take out my Golem. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Radiant Artifact into the face. Another Retrophia. I think they scoop after this turn. Which honestly they shouldn't have, if I'm being frank. Because I don't have another Golem in my hand at the moment. But they don't know that. And I do have Fate's Hand to draw into it potentially, so I still had a lot of options here. Now, as you can see there, I transmuted the spell into a 6 cost and got my 3 bodies. in preparation for a potential other Golem Lord that I can draw off the top or off of Fate's hand. It's more bodies and it prevents burn damage. Preventing burn damage, especially important against this deck, Artifact Portalcraft, because the rhinos generated off of the big rhino deal burn, all right? Which I'm pretty, wait, I think you can see that here. I think I'm remembering now. Yeah, there you go, there you go. They summon the rhino based off the other rhino, which would usually deal 3 damage, but because of my effect from Celestial Convergence, it only deals 1. And I think now they scoop. Am I remembering that correctly? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, now they scoop because they don't have any other resources in hand. They give up, they don't attack, and I finish the job. Because they have no hand, and they basically just were like, all right, end the game. I knew they scooped. I just forgot when. All right, here I'm fighting against another Runecraft player. Specifically, it's the mirror match against Golemboost. Now, their deck is the optimized version of the deck. Not only that, you couldn't see it here, but I remember, they had 30,000 master points while I was at 10,000. Meaning that they were 2 full ranks in Grandmaster ahead of me. We're playing the same archetype, except theirs is more polished than mine. By all accounts, I should have lost this game. Let's take a look. And I'm pretty sure I misplayed this game near the end too, now that I'm thinking about it. Remember that my power was out and I was frustrated. Okay. Just keep that in mind. They play the multi-elemental neophyte on 1. I play Ultramarine Witch as I did before. I have the Golem Lord in my hand, which is very nice. We go ahead and cycle through the deck this way, and I play Outdoors Mage after drawing Fate's Hand, meaning that I boost my 2 Fate's Hands now in hand with that 1-cost Crystallized spell. I get the Golem Lord back. They go ahead and fuse Celestial Command. Their deck is a little different. They do run the Mind Control Mage, which is a card that's very interesting. When you fuse it, you draw a card. So essentially, you get a 0-cost draw card by fusing it into Celestial Command. It's quite an interesting tech. They go ahead and play Magical Augmentation on my guy to draw through their deck a little bit, and then play an Ultramarine Witch of their own. Now, at this point, I'm just like, okay, I have 2 Fate's Hands, let's boost. So I play the Golem Lord spell, I play Bertrand, I play the Bertrand spell, gives both my guys ward, which is very nice. And here's a little tip from me to you. When you're playing a spell boost deck, you want to save the 0-cost spell boost, usually for the turn after, if it's not pertinent right now. I know it can be tempting to be like, I want to see what's next in my deck, but on the event that you draw another spell boost card off the top, that 1 boost from a 0-cost spell that you saved from the previous turn can end up mattering. So that's why I didn't play the 0-cost Fate's Hand yet, even though I know at this point it could even boost another Fate's Hand. But if I draw another spell boost card, it would have mattered. I didn't. Long speech just for it to not matter, but please keep that in mind because it can win you games. Now, I end up playing the 0-cost Fate's Hand, and there's Crushing Rain. Start boosting that as well. Ultramarine Witch comes down. Play Summoning Disaster, which, again, gets rid of the Ultramarine Witch, giving me another draw. Summoning Disaster is a new card, by the way, and it seems so innocuous, but it's actually super powerful. And now, with this effect, I can summon Golem Lords Accelerate once more. Now, again, I'm thinking on turn 5, I want the guarantee of having the chance of playing that Earthright 2 if I need it on the 5-cost Golem Lord body. That's where Celestial Command comes in, and I end up fusing away my Neophyte, I believe. That was my Neophyte, right? Yes. I was so entrenched in my dialogue, or my monologue rather, that I didn't even look. They play a Gruine of their own, and that reduces the stats of all my guys and adds to their stack. At this point, I'm sweating. They're playing the frickin' Super Whale version, which also runs Sweet Defender Golem for additional stack and maybe late game heal as well. Particularly good against gigantic boards, which could be relevant because Dragon is running around right now. But they trade into my Clay Golem, and I'm left with 2 1/1s here. 2 1/1s. You know what that means, right? That means I have 3 empty board slots if I use Earthright 2, which means I Golem Lord. Now here, the reason why I like to pre-evolve my Golem Lord in the mirror is that if I don't pre-evolve my Golem Lord in the mirror, their Golem Lord can kill my Golem Lord for free without spending an Evo point of their own, because their Golem Lord does 5 damage. So, I go ahead and pre-evolve the Golem Lord, making it a 7/7. Now, if they want to kill my board with their Golem Lord, they're forced to evolve a Guardian Golem without killing their own Golem Lord. And assume they don't want to kill their own Golem Lord unless they have air in hand, because they actually want to deal the damage with the Golem Lord, all right? So they go ahead and destroy the Guardian Golem, and now that means their Golem Lord I can destroy for free with my Golem Lord. So this way I am ahead in the battle of Golem Lords, as you can see right here. Oh, I fuse another time as well. Actually, this was a mistake. This is the misplay I was talking about. I don't know why I did that. I think that was a misclick, honestly. Don't do that. Because now I have no hand after this Golem Lord. Yeah, that was bad. My power was out. Do as I say, not as I do in this case, okay? Anyway, I play the Golem Lord, which I can now clear their board for free. I do the same thing, by the way. Pre-evolve the Golem Lord again, make it hard for them again, and they scoop. Thank God, because I misclicked that last turn. If they didn't scoop, I might have actually been in trouble, but we outplayed them the turns before. Now here I'm up against Dragoncraft, and I believe this is Big Dragoncraft. So there's two main archetypes of dragon running around right now, Buff as well as Big. And Big is focused on ramping into massive amounts of damage, while Buff is focused on, buffing their followers for a lot of stats, which then activate effects. Both are pretty good. I think personally Buff is stronger right now, so I guess I should count my lucky stars that I went up against Big here. And thankfully, with another Familiars pact, I can start using these Golem Lords, and I had 2 Fates hands in my opener. And here's that tip coming into play again, not spending my 0-cost spell boost until the next turn, because what if I top deck another spell boost? It could end up being relevant. They play Strike of the Dragon Slayer to get rid of my board, and it is relevant. I draw Fate's Hand. So this boost, I can end up boosting my Fate's Hand faster by saving my Fate's Hands from the previous turn. All right, and now we get to go through the deck fast, everybody. Playing Mysterian Circle here, and I get to fuse a Neophyte as well. Making sure, again, I have at least 2 stacks for turn 5 if I need it. They play Silver Scale Sentry, which lets them ramp by reducing the cost of the Draconic Fervor it generates when it evolves. And so they ramp and heal this way, increasing the maximum play point orbs. That's fine. I do want to play Golem Lord here, so I do. And I do consider evolving the Golem Lord instead of evolving this, but I went for the aggressive play, knowing that the only thing that is a direct counter to this board state is Drazael. They would rather want to play Worm God most of the time to activate their Relic Dragon. It's just the usual patterns for Big Dragon. So I'm like, at least if I do this, I force Drazael, and if they don't have Drazael, I'm in a good position. And I deal 6 with Golem Lord. Can't complain about that. But of course they have Drazael. Oh boy. Well, at this point I'm like, well, at least they didn't play Worm God, which means their Relic Dragon is now even more of a gamble. That's fine. We'll live with that. Crushing Rain. Take this out. Go ahead and play Fate's Hand. Binding Ritual for stack. And there's a reason why I didn't play the other Golem Lord here. It's because I don't have a guarantee that it'll kill, right? Golem Lord, if I played it for the body, it would have summoned 2 golems. It would have done 8 to the face. They would be left with 3. 3, it's close, but it's no cigar, right? And if they heal back with another Drazael or what have you, then I'd be screwed because I don't have another Familiars Pact at the moment to be able to guarantee a 3rd Golem Lord lethal. And again, this is the budget version of the deck with no air, so I have to be even more wary of spending my Golem Lords willy-nilly, all right? So instead, I go for the idea of generating more golems up front and then having a Golem Lord in the back do more damage in one go rather than doing Golem Lord for tempo. And Outdoors Mage is nice here, being able to clear this without me spending an evolution point, and I draw a card off of the Ultramarine Witch as well. Now, I'm pretty sure in this turn they played 3 Dragon Shrines or something. Yeah, something like that. 2 Dragon Shrines. To ramp to 10, and they kill my Neophyte. And now at 7 play points, I'm pretty sure I have lethal. Got 8 damage from this. Plus a Golem from Bertrand. Make that 9 damage. Crushing Rain is 11 damage. GG. We just delay the Golem Lord by 1 turn until we're sure we have it. So, off we go. The game plan is executed. Bye! It worked! The last game I want to show you with this deck is up against Shadowcraft. Now, Shadowcraft, one of the strongest classes in the game right now. They currently have 2 archetypes that are both pretty good. Last Word Shadow and Helio Shadow. In this case, we're going up against Last Word Shadow, which is another deck that new players can try quite easily because you get a free pre-built for Last Word Shadow that you can easily build upon for very cheap. So if you're looking for another deck to try alongside this Golemboost deck, definitely check out Last Word Shadow. I will say, though, it's a little harder to pilot. Now, we went for turn 1 Ultramarine Witch into Fuse Celestial Command into getting Gruin. Why did we do that? Because with 3 stacks, Gruin generates that Veridic Ritual, which is more damage, another spell, and can help you draw through your deck. I generally just like getting Veridic off of Gruin. I think Gruin is a great card. They go ahead and kill their own Tsukuyomi for another Tsukuyomi to deal some damage to me. That's fine. They, in fact, do it again. And they're also doing this to accelerate their last words count as well as draw some cards because that's their whole game plan. Their game plan is to activate 10 last words and then use Alice for massive storm damage once that quest is met. For me, my game plan is to summon golems. So that's what I'm doing, all right? Again, make sure to keep in mind the 2 Earthrights for turn 5 if you need it. They play Aldous, which is quite a nice card for them. It ends up being able to heal them, actually. So you gotta keep that in mind. Binding Ritual is nice here, letting it not attack. And I actually draw another Gruin, which I'm super happy about. Because that means I can generate more rituals next turn. And my Golem Lords then has to do less work because I have additional spells that deal damage alongside it, meaning I can potentially burst them down from a very high health total. They end up playing their Dark Alice for Crystallize, and they want to get that out as soon as possible, as you know. I play the Celestial Command, and I actually end up forgoing a stack here from Gruin. I just wanted to accelerate my Golem count. I thought I had enough stacks anyway, so it's fine. And I would rather have my board be filled with actual bodies that accelerate my Golem Lord win condition in this case. But you could definitely navigate that turn differently. That was just a decision that I made. That was like, I don't think that was objectively the correct play, for example. That's just what I felt like was the right play at the moment. And part of why I felt that way is because Gruin can debuff Aldous. And Aldous does effects based on her stats. So if they're debuffed, they do less stuff. All right? Now they can't actually ping off my guys, and I get Veridic Ritual. As you can see here, 0 damage ping because their attack is 0. As you see here, 0 damage ping because their attack is 0, and it only heals them 1 as well. They end up fusing their Grey Void Knight, looking for Istendet in particular. Very important card for this deck. Trading their Alice away, playing a Void Knight here, being able to double clear. It's very nice for them. But if I was them, I maybe would have kept the Void Knight because honestly, having that draw engine is pretty nice to make sure that you're topped up in hand and having the potential to draw an Istendet at any time. Anyway, here I play Golem Lord. And I actually also play another Golem Lord from the Accelerate as well because it adds to my count and it also accelerates my Fate's Hand, which I find quite important. Now, I do evolve the Golem Lord here. And I do that because their last words count. Actually, that was a mistake. At the time, I did not check their last words count. The power was out, okay? I think this was actually a mistake because once they reach 10 last words destroyed, Istendet can clear the board regardless of stat line. It's a hard removal. So that evolve was a mistake, okay? But my power was out, okay? That's my excuse. That's my go-to excuse. But regardless, it looks like they don't have Istendet. Nope, they do. I was so full of like, I made that blunder and I was like, Don't worry about it. They don't have it. They had it, okay? But it's fine because if we take a look now, that Veridic ritual that we generated off of Gruin is going to pay back in its dividends. Is that the saying? Because Golem Lord summons 2 guys, 10 damage, Veridic ritual 3 damage, that's 13 damage, baby. And that's lethal. As you can see here. So my advice, play this deck when your power isn't out, I guess. But as you can see, it's pretty good.